Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and today is the long-awaited historical fiction haul. From my birthday, the third quarter, going into the fourth, I've tried to separate them out by either series or their setting. So let's do the shortest stack of settings first. And I'm excited to read all of these. If one of them catches your attention and you're like, I want to know more, Tammy, go read that one, leave a comment down below. Because obviously I want to read all of these, and if somebody's interested and wants to buddy read or wants me to read to see if they would, if they're truly interested, then let me know. So, okay. Out of this entire stack, to the best of my knowledge, this is the only book of Russian. That is A Countess Below the Stairs by Eva Abatson. And the only reason I know about this book is because this is on the list of potential books for Read My Life. And this was published in the year of 1981. So it is approaching classic status. And it is 383 pages, but that is misleading because this print is far from tiny. I'm not going to read the back of all of these, but as this is the only Russian, I will read the back of this one. After the Russian Revolution turns her world topsy-turvy, Anna, a young Russian countess, has no choice but to flee to England. Penniless, Anna hides her aristocratic background and takes a job as a servant in the household of the esteemed Westerholm family, armed with only an outdated housekeeping manual and sheer determination. Desperate to keep her past a secret, Anna is nearly overwhelmed by her new duties, not to mention her instant attraction to Rupert, the handsome Earl of Westerholm. To make matters worse, Rupert appears to be falling for her as well. As her attraction grows stronger, Anna finds it more and more difficult to keep her most dearly held secrets from unraveling. And there's the small matter of Rupert's beautiful and nasty fiancé. Yeah, so it doesn't take place in Russia, but very few sets in history do these days that aren't classics. So, never read anything by this author. It's worth a try. Okay, next up. I'm going to do America because there's only... there's 3 books set in America. So, let's do them. First up would be Last Chance by Jill Marie Landis, my kindergarten teacher, once upon a time. This is a Western historical romance. It is one of the few mass markets I purchased. It's 405 pages. It sounds fantastic. The cover is beautiful. It'll be even more beautiful once I get the sticker off the cover. And, I am a little biased, but I love her writing style. So, and she has this great cozy mystery series set in Hawaii, which I truly love. So there's the cover. Next up would be The American Heiress by Daisy Goodwin. And this is Newport heiress Cora Cash. Beautiful, spirited, and the richest girl in the country is the closest thing American society has to a princess in 1893. But her mother wants more and whisks Cora away to England for the one thing money can't buy in the States. The title. So, it is another of the, impoverished English title marries with marries rich American stories. So, next up is a Goodreads win. This is The Moonshine Women by Michelle Collins Anderson. I have read nothing by her. This publishes the 1st of February of 2026. No, that's not right. That's for awards. Does it tell me when it publishes? It does not. Anyway, it was a Goodreads win. I will read you the back of this one. It's very short. From a well-camouflaged still in the moonshine-slaked mountains of Prohibition-era Missouri to the drink order of Hot Spring and gangsters and even the hidden depths of her own heart, a strong woman knows how to keep a secret. Three sisters take over their Ozark Mountains moonshine business in an evocative Prohibition-era story of reinvention, sisterhood, revenge, and the alchemy of love. I think I won another book by her and I haven't read it yet either. So I am very interested. I love this cover. I mean, look at that cover. What's not to love? Okay. So up next would be the Italian pile. So there's a whopping 3 books in the Italian pile, but there are 3 books I really want to read. So, first up would be The Illuminator by Brenda Rickman Ventris. I just picked up another one of her books on a Kindle Daily Deal. Let's see if it's listed here. It is not. I think this is her first book. This was published in 2005. Her books get high review scores. So, I'm sorry, this is not Italian, this is English. It is England in the late 14th century, a time when the old feudal order is starting to crack, but the whim of a lord or the pleasure of a bishop still has the power to seal nearly anyone's fate. Books are rare and costly, painstakingly lettered by hand and illuminated with exquisite paintings. For Lady Catherine of Blackingham Manor, a widow and a mother trying to safeguard her holdings without the dubious protection of her late husband, it is a time made both sweeter and more perilous by the arrival of a master illuminator called Finn. Caught between the king's taxes and the church's tithes, Catherine strikes a bargain with the local abbot. She will take Finn and his pretty young daughter into her household in exchange for the monastery's protection. So, okay, not Italian, but I'm still highly interested. This one is definitely Italian. This is The Botticelli Secret by Marina Foriato, which I undoubtedly butchered. Florence looks like gold and smells like sulfur. In the gorgeous, brutal world of 15th century Italy, Luciana Vetra is a young and beautiful with waist-length ringlets of golden hair. She is also a part-time model and a full-time whore. When her best client asks her to pose as the goddess Flora for Sandro Botticelli's painting La Primavera, Luciana is willing to oblige until the artist abruptly sends her away without payment. Luciana is not usually a thief, but this time she is angry and cannot resist taking an unfinished version of the painting, if only to look at it some more. But Luciana soon learns that someone is ready to kill her, and nearly everyone she knows, to get the painting back. I really need to read this. I wanted to read this for quite some time, and this is 514 pages, and it was published in 2010. So I wanted to read this for 15 years. Okay, next up would be The Scribe of Siena by Melody Winnower. I love this cover. And this was published in 2017. And it is not as thick as it looks, to be honest. Just over 440 pages. So A transporting love story and a gripping historical mystery in the tradition of a girl with a pearl earring and Outlander, the Scribe of Siena blurs the line between past and present when a 14th century journal unites two people across 6 centuries. A set of paintings depicting the life of St. Christopher caught my eye, and when I saw them, I stopped short. I glanced at the placard on the gallery wall. Studies for frescoes, thought to have decorated a portion of the city gates, tempera on a panel, attributed to Gabriele Beltrano of Corsi, Martini School, 14th century. My Gabrielle, I thought, and I felt the hair on my arms rise. And then I caught a detail at the very edge of one of the scenes, almost small enough to miss. On a distant riverbank, a small crowd of anxious travelers stand. Among them is a woman in a green dress with black hair braided in the shape of a crown. The painting was more than 650 years old, but the woman's face was mine. I need to know. Okay, so let's do the mishmash. I think I don't have a better word to describe them, so we're going to go with mishmash. One that is extraordinarily high on my list, and this will not be a shocker to any of you. When I hold it up, getting the page count. It's over 900 pages. It's the first in the series. It has maps. It was a birthday gift, so I've probably talked about this. If I have, I apologize. It was published in 2003. This is Quicksilver by Neil Stephenson. It is the first in the Baroque Cycle series. I am in the process of acquiring the rest of the series. As you know, I fell in love with Neil Stephenson's writing this year. I am acquiring all of it because, and I'm sorry if you can hear the dishwasher, but dishes are a washing. And I need to know. I really need to know. So, Quicksilver is the story of Daniel Waterhouse, fearless thinker and conflicted Puritan pursuing knowledge in the company of the greatest minds of the Baroque era Europe. In a chaotic world where reason wars with the bloody ambitions of the mighty, and where catastrophe, natural or otherwise, can alter the political landscape overnight. I have no doubt that he can pull this off beautifully and brilliantly. So it is extraordinarily high on my list. Next up is The Source by James Michener. James Michener transports us back thousands of years to the Holy Land through the discoveries of modern archaeologists excavating the site of Tel Makor. Michener vividly recreates an ancient city and traces the profound history of the Jewish people, from the persecution of the early Hebrews, the rise of Christianity and the Crusades, to the founding of Israel and the modern conflict in the Middle East. And like all of his works, it is this was first published in 1865. It is a continuing set of for lack of a better term, novellas that are all interlinked through time, and it's over 1,000 pages. So again, it's Michener. Okay, the one I am by far the skinniest one I bought. It is 81 pages. No, that is The Testament of Mary by Colm Tobin. Not read anything by him. I have heard his writing is beautiful, and I didn't read the description before I bought this book, so I'm kind of on the fence on it. But in the ancient town of Ephesus, Mary lives alone years after her son's crucifixion. She has no interest in collaborating with the authors of the gospel, who are her keepers. She does not agree that her son is the Son of God, nor that his death was worth it, nor that the group of misfits he gathered around him, men who could not look a woman in the eye, were holy disciples. Mary judges herself ruthlessly. She did not stay at the foot of the cross until her son died. She fled to save herself. And her judgment of others is equally harsh. This woman, whom we know from centuries of paintings and scripture, is the docile, loving, silent, long-suffering, obedient, worshipful mother of Christ, becomes a tragic heroine with the relentless eloquence of Electra or Medea or Antigone. Dolben's tour de force of imagination and language is a portrait so vivid and convincing that our image of Mary will forever be transformed. Those who know me well will understand that this is the book I am least likely to pick up, and it's probably going to sit on my shelves for a while, a very long while. Yeah, just if you know me well, you know that that description is incredibly antithetical to me. So that's the book I'm least happy with. But I picked it. I have only myself to blame. Okay, next up, I believe these are both Australian. But, yep, they're both Australian. So first up would be The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. I know this has come up on several tags this year, so I'm not going to read the back. It's historical fiction, and it is set in Australia at a lighthouse. If any of you have read that, let me know how it is, because I'm very interested. This is a Colleen McCullough book. It is not the last time she will appear in this book haul. That is Morgan's Run. And this was published for the first time in 2000. I would expect it to be later than that. At the center of her new novel is Richard Morgan, son of a Bristol tavern keeper, devoted husband, and loving father, sober and hard-working craftsman. But the machinations of fate and the vagaries of 18th century English judicial system, he's consigned as a convict to the famous First Fleet, which set sail bearing as an experiment in penology 582 male and 193 female felons, sentenced to transportation in May of 1787 for the continent that Captain Cook had discovered only a few years earlier. The word epic is overused, but no other word can do justice to one of the most grueling and significant voyages in human history, or to the courage of the convicts whose suffering were not ended, but had only just begun when they set foot on Australia soil at Botany Bay on January 19th, 1788. High on my list. Not shocking. Okay. So let's do series next. Okay, let's do the only completed physical series. And I may have shown this one before. I don't even know the name of the series. What is the name of this series? Does it? I know it's a series, but I don't know what the series is called. Anyway, it is the Lilac Girl series by Martha Hall Kelly. So the first book is The Lilac Girls. The second book is Lost Roses. And the third book is The Sunflower Sisters. And even though in publication order, The Lilac Girls is the most recent book, and The Sunflower Girls is the most in time book, furthest back in time. So if that bothers you, you can easily read them in reverse order. They're all published. They're all available. It doesn't bother me because they can be read as standalones at the same time. They do follow the family of Caroline in this book. So, I have not yet finished Lilac Girls. I know that Lauren over at Intuitive Reading, I will link her channel down below. Go follow her. She's sweet and wonderful. And Amanda have both read this book this year and loved it. I am a quarter of the way through, and it is a very heavy read. I am enjoying it, but it is World War II fiction, and we all know that I struggle with it. But I love the writing. It just got too heavy with stuff going on in my personal life. So I want to go back and finish that. Okay. Next up is a partial series. Partial physical series. I need to buy, I believe it's books 2 and 3, because books 1, 4, and 5 were in my library bookshop in perfect condition. That is, what is the name of this series? Never going to be in that book. It is his Genghis Khan series. So by Khan Igluddin. And first up is Birth of an Empire. Book 3 is Bones to the Hills. Or book 4 is Bones to the Hills. I don't even know if this is book 5 because of course they're not listed. Why don't publishers just make that standard? Yeah, book 4 is Bones to the Hills, and book 5 is Empire of Silver. So I need to pick up and order books 2 and 3 so I can, have the fully fleshed out series. He writes beautiful historical fiction, and I cannot imagine this is going to be any different. He is a fantastic writer, and they're well researched, so I have no trouble picking them up. That is a standalone. Okay, next up, both of these fall under the same category. They are both English. The rest of the books in the series were on sale on Kindle, except the first book. Why put the series on sale if you're not going to put the first book? It irritates me. And when the physical book is less than the Kindle book for the first, I'm always going to buy the first book. So this is The King's Witch by Tracy Borman. And I have not read anything by her, but this series got amazing reviews. This is 437 pages, and this book was published in 2018. And I'm going to actually read you the back. It is blurbed by Alison Weir, by the way, the author of The Six Wives of Henry VIII. From one of our most accomplished Tudor historians comes the first enthralling novel in a trilogy set in the opening of the 17th century. In March 1603, as she helps to nurse the dying Queen Elizabeth of England, Frances George dreams of her parents' country estate, where she has learned to use flowers and herbs to become a much-loved healer. When King James of Scotland succeeds to the throne, Francis is only too happy to stay at home, far from the decadence and debauchery of his court. Yet when her ambitious uncle forces Francis to return to the royal palace as a lady in the bedchamber of the young Princess Elizabeth, she becomes a ready target for the twisted scheming of the Privy Seal, Lord Cecil. As a dark campaign to destroy both king and parliament gathers pace, culminating in the gunpowder plot of 1605, Francis is surrounded by danger, finding happiness only with the king's precocious young daughter and with Tom Wintour, the one courtier she feels she can trust. But Wintour has a secret. When revealed, places Francis in conflict with the royal charge and in fear for her own family. Again, it screams me. It screams I have to know. So, and this is Volume 1 of the Cazalet Chronicles, The Light Years. This is by Elizabeth Jane Howard, another author I have never read. I own the rest of this entire series on my Kindle. This is 434 pages, and this one was published in 1990. And I'll read you the back, it's really short. In 1937, the coming war is only a distant cloud on the horizon. As various Cazalet households prepare for their summer pilgrimage to the family estate in Sussex, we meet bluff, hardy Edward, in love with, but by no means faithful to his good wife Billy. Hugh, wounded in the Great War, devoted to pregnant Sybil. Rupert, who worships the body, if not the mind, of his child bride Zoe. And Rachel, the spinster sister, conducting a desperate clandestine love affair under the family roof. And there are 4 or 5 more books in this series, and they all follow family members, you know, in I think they end right after World War II, so it's right up there on my list. Okay, next up, I have the 3rd book of this series on order. I just wasn't going to hold this up for that book to arrive, and that is the Pendragon Banners trilogy by Helen Hollick, another author I have not read. This is The Kingmaker. And here lies the truth of the Lord of the Summerland. This is the tale of Arthur, flesh and bone, of the shaping of the man, both courageous and flawed, into the celebrated ruler who inspired armies, captured Gwynfar's heart, and who emerged as the hero of the Dark Ages and the most enduring hero of all times. This is the unexpected story of the making of a king, the legend who united all of Britain. And book 2 is Pendragon's Banner. And this was published in 2023. And does it give me the title of the 3rd book? It does not. How annoying is that? And, you know, she has a lot of books, not a lot. She has a significant number, but not so much that you're instantly questioning her sources and her ability to write for herself. So I'm looking forward to those. Okay, next up is The Return of Colleen McCullough. And I already own the first 2 books in this series. And I'm missing two books, so one of those 2 is on order. But again, we have a problem. So the first 2 books match the first 2 books on this pile, and then the next 3 books in the series are this size. They don't even match on the spines. I mean, why? You can't get these to match this. You can't get this to match these. So, I do not understand publishing. I do not, if you're going to publish the entire series, then publish them correctly. Okay, so the 3rd book, this is the First Men of Rome series by Colleen McCullough. The 3rd book is Fortune's Favorites. These are big, chunky books. This one's over 1,000 pages. This one's a little beat up, but it's okay. As usual, there are maps and pronunciation guides and, history, timeline. And they're beautifully researched. I have no doubt. I cannot wait to dive in, but I'm waiting until I have the whole series so that I can binge them all. And the fourth book is The Grass Crown. Again, big old chunky book. This one's over 1,100 pages. And the character artwork continues. The fifth book is Anthony and Cleopatra. Oddly sized. Makes me want to pull all my hair out. And this one is a whopping 549 pages because it's so much bigger. And the character artwork is here, but it is greatly diminished because they're now putting 2 on 1 page. Again, publishers, can you just be consistent? It's not too much to ask. Okay. So, now we're going to dive into the true stack that is English historical fiction. Okay, so I think almost all of these are from Better World Books. In fact, almost everything on this has been from Better World, unless I've said otherwise. Okay, the Colleen McCullough Rome series was from Walmart, but so I ordered a book I have already read. I ordered a different cover than what arrived. It's a risky run if you're not picking it up. It doesn't match any of the other ones I own by the same author in size, so I'm still on the hunt to replace this book. But does not change the fact that I love it, and if I can't find the one I want, I at least have this one. That is the autobiography of Henry VIII, with notes by his fool Will Summers by Margaret George. If you are on the fence about historical fiction, if you are interested in Henry VIII from a non-female perspective, if you just want to fall in love with historical fiction, this is the book. This is the book I tell everybody to read that loves historical fiction. I have gifted this book. I will always gift this book. Her writing is masterful, and you know, it's a big boy no matter what version you get. This is over 900 pages in this format. It was published in 1986, and I probably read it, if not in 86, shortly thereafter. This book is everything. As you know, I rarely, very, very rarely reread books. This is a book I will reread more than once in my lifetime. It is that good. It is that impactful. It is that well written. So, go pick up Henry VIII. Okay. This is the Memoirs of Mary, Queen of Scots by Caroli Erickson. We get a lot of Elizabeth books. We don't often get a lot of Mary books. And, you know, they need to be read together or in juxtaposition of one another. Like Margaret George has an Elizabeth I book, and she has a Mary, Queen of Scots book, both of which are sitting on my shelf. I haven't read either one of them, and they often talk to me. Born Queen of Scotland, married as a young girl to the invalid King of France, Mary took the reins of an unruly kingdom of Scotland as a young widow and fought to keep her throne. A second marriage to her handsome but dissolute cousin, Lord Darnley, ended in murder and scandal, while a third marriage to the dashing, commanding Lord Bothwell, the love of her life, gave her joy, but widened the scandal and surrounded her with enduring ill repute. Unable to rise above the violence and the disorder that swirled around her, Mary plucked up her courage and escaped to England, only to find herself prisoner of her ruthless merciless cousin, Queen Elizabeth. Here in our own riveting account is the enchanting woman whose name still evokes excitement and compassion, and whose death under the headsman's axe still draws forth our sorrow. And this book is a short 309 pages. So I am interested to see how well this does justice to Mary, Queen of Scots, because her life was a roller coaster, to be nice. It was a roller coaster. So I'm very interested. Okay. Let's do the mass markets first, since they're kind of hanging on here. Okay. First up is When Gods Die by C.S. Harris. This is the second book in the Sebastian St. Cyr mystery series. Not cozy, not police procedural, historical, fantastic. Cannot wait to dive into it. Read in Sierra. Say less. I think I've talked about this one before. This is My Enemy the Queen by Victoria Holt. I got this on Better World for well under 10. Can't remember the exact price. I do remember the exact price for this exact book in worse condition on Amazon at the time I purchased this. That was $676 and change, plus shipping. This was published in 1978, and I can't wait. She was the beautiful, impetuous Lettice Devereux. It was Lettice who married the Earl of Leicester. I can't talk this morning, apparently. Whom Elizabeth I loved. It was Lettice who was the mother of the Queen's beloved Earl of Essex, the young Earl that would one day break the Queen's heart. It was always Lettice, the constant spoiler in the triangle of love surrounding Elizabeth. All I need to know. Okay. Let's do this one. This is Victoria by Daisy Wood. This was a Better World purchase. It's obviously a Queen Victoria story. I don't need to say much more. And I believe this was the basis for the In America PBS series on Victoria. So I am very interested. This is 457 pages and was published in 2016. So, interested? Next up is Major Pettigrew's Last Stand by Helen Simonson. And this is, I'll read you the back. In the small village of Edgecombe, St. Mary, in the English countryside, lives Major Ernest Pettigrew, retired. The unlikely hero of Helen Simonson's wondrous debut. Wry, courtly, opinionated, and completely endearing, the Major leads a quiet life valuing the proper things that Englishmen have lived by for generations. Honor, duty, decorum, and a properly brewed cup of tea. But then his brother's death sparks an unexpected friendship with Mrs. Jasmina Ali, the Pakistani shopkeeper from the village. Drawn together by their shared love of literature and the loss of their spouses, the Major and Mrs. Ali soon find their friendship blossoming into something more. But the village society insists on embracing him as the quintessential local and regarding her as the permanent foreigner. Can their relationship survive the risks one takes when pursuing happiness in the face of culture and tradition? I just think this sounds amazing. It's 353 pages, 55 pages. So it's not long, but I'm definitely interested. This is The Royal Nanny by Karen Harper. And in April 1897, a young nanny arrives at Sandringham ancestral estate of the Duke and Duchess of York. She is excited, exhausted, and about to meet royalty. So, the best book Karen Harper has written is The Queen's Governess. It is the story of the governess for Elizabeth I. If you have not read it, I highly recommend you run and secure yourself a copy and fall in love. Be prepared to cry. It's a fantastic book. Okay. This is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. England, 1580, the Black Death creeps across the land, an ominous thread infecting the healthy, the sick, and the old, and the young alike. The end of days is near, but life always goes on. A young Latin tutor, penniless and bullied by a violent father, falls in love with an extraordinary, eccentric young woman. Agnes is a wild creature who walks her family's land with a falcon on her glove and is known throughout the countryside for her unusual gifts as a healer, understanding plants and potions better than she does people. Once she settles with her husband on Henley Street in Stratford-upon-Avon, she becomes a fiercely protective mother and a steadfast, centrifugal force in the life of her young husband, whose career on the London stage is just taking off when his beloved young son succumbs to sudden fever. This is 305 pages. This is recent. This was published in 2020, and I picked this up from Library Bookshop. This cost me a whopping $1, so I'm excited about that. This is better yet. This is Year of Wonder by Geraldine Brooks. This is also a plague book, by the way. When an affected bolt of cloth carries the plague from London to an isolated mountain village, a housemaid named Anna Firth emerges as an unlikely heroine and healer. Through Anna's eyes, we follow the story of the plague year, 1666, as her fellow villagers make an extraordinary choice. Convinced by a visionary young minister, they elect to quarantine themselves within the village boundaries and to arrest the spread of the disease. But as death reaches into every household, faith frays. When villagers turn from prayers to murderous witch hunting, Anna must confront the deaths of family, the disintegration of her community, and the lure of illicit love. No. As she struggles to survive, a year of plague becomes Anna's Mirabilis, a year of wonders. I've heard nothing but praise for Geraldine Brooks's writing, and this is short. This is it's even shorter than I thought. Just over 300 pages, including the epilogue. And it was published in 2001. So I am very much looking forward to this. Okay, that brings us to Charity Girl by Georgette Hare. This was a pickup on Better World. It's in perfect condition. I paid a fraction compared to what, it would cost me on even Kindle, let alone physical format on Amazon or any of the other sites. And I love the fact that on the very back page of the front cover, it shows you all the books published in the same format. So I will link my video about Georgette Hare in the description box down below. This is, a very beloved novel by her. So I have probably read this, but I don't remember it, and I would have read it a very, very long time ago. So, and this was a library pickup. This was published in 2008. This is Silent in the Sanctuary by Deanna Rayburn. This is a Lady Julia Gray mystery. I believe this is the second book in the series. I really wish publishers would just, standardize. Yep, this is the second book in the series. The first book is Silent in the Grave. So I'm on the hunt for that, but it has a compelling cover. And I'll read you the first paragraph from the back. Fresh from a 6-month sojourn in Italy, Lady Julia returns home to Sussex to find her father's estate crowded with family and friends. But dark deeds are afoot at the deconsecrated abbey, and a murderer roams the ancient cloisters. Historical murder mystery? I am there. I am pretty sure I have talked about this book before, but just in case I haven't, this was a gift from Amanda. This is The Locksmith's Daughter by Karen Brooks. And says the unforgettable story of Queen Elizabeth's ruthless spymaster and his daring protege. Mallory Bright is the only daughter of London's most ingenious locksmith and has apprenticed with her father since childhood. After scandal destroys her reputation, Mallory has returned to her father's home and lives almost as a recluse, ignoring the whispers of their neighbors. But Sir Francis Walsingham, Queen Elizabeth's spymaster, and a frequent client of Mallory's father, sees potential in Mallory and draws her into his world of danger and deception. The locksmith's daughter is not only good at cracking locks, he discovers, she has a talent for codes, spycraft, and intrigue. With Mallory at his service, no scheme in England or abroad is safe from discovery. Yeah. Okay. Most of what is next. Oh, these are standalones. Another publisher grape incoming. Why? All the other standalones by this author are in this size. So what is this? I mean, just irritating. So, the mismatched book is The Royal Mistress by Anne Easter Smith, and this is an engrossing novel of the rise and fall of Jane Shore, final and favorite mistress of Edward IV. Jane Lambert, the quick-witted and alluring daughter of a silk merchant, is 22 and still unmarried, a scandal. When Jane's father finally finds her a match, she's married off to the dull, older silk merchant William Shore. Marriage doesn't stop Jane from flirtation, however. And when the King's Chamberlain, Will Hastings, comes to her husband's shop, Will knows King Edward will find her irresistible. Okay, that's all I need to know. I believe this is her most recent book. This is 475 pages, and it was published in 2013. So, I have a couple of other Anne Easter Smiths sitting on my bookcases, but this is The King's Grace. This was a Better World find, and I love her covers. They're so beautiful. This one in this format is, skip the author's note, 570 pages, and this one was published in 2009. The best-selling author takes a young woman whom history noticed only once and sets her on a quest for the truth about the murder of 2 boys and a man who claims to be king. All that history knows of Grace Plantagenet is that she was an illegitimate daughter of Edward IV and one of the two attendants aboard the funeral barge of his widowed queen. Thus, she was half-sister of the famous young princes, who, when the story begins in 1485, had been housed in the Tower by their uncle Richard III and are presumed dead. I don't need to know any more. Okay. Coming towards the end here. So, I don't know if these are in order, and I need to do a repair on this book, which is fine. I have library repair tape. I have one of these books sitting in the other room. They don't match in size, but at least that one doesn't match, but at least these do. I'm missing one book in this series. It's been very hard to find, and they don't say if this is part of the series. This is not part of the series. That is a standalone. Okay. So these 2 are part of the series, I know for sure. This is the first book in the series. This is William Marshall. This is The Greatest Night. This is William Marshall. These are all by Elizabeth Chadwick. And I will read you the back of this one. A penniless young knight with few prospects, William Marshall is plucked from obscurity when he saves the life of Henry II's formidable queen, Eleanor of Aquitaine. In gratitude, she appoints him tutor to the heir of the throne. However, being a royal favorite brings its share of conflict and envy as well as fame and reward. William's influence over the volatile, fickle Prince Henry and his young wife is resented by less favored courtiers who set about engineering his downfall. So, as soon as I get the rest of the books in the series, I will be reading this. So the second book in the series is The Scarlet Lion, which is in the other room. Next comes A Time of Singing and To Defy a King, and the last book in the series is Templar Silks, and this takes place in England in 1219 and Jerusalem in 1183. So I'm missing 2 books in the series, and then I can start it, and I would be very happy about this. Okay, this is a standalone by Elizabeth Chadwick. This is A Place Beyond Courage. And early 12th century is a time for ambitious men to prosper, and royal servant John Fitzgilbert is one of them. But when the old king dies and his successor is appointed, John's enemies at court soon make his position untenable. He must join the rival faction or risk losing everything. And his wife, the pious, pliant Elaine, is hopelessly unequipped to deal with a life lived on the edge, especially when John is injured in battle. John recovers from his wounds. He knows the only way to protect his lands and his children is to divorce Elaine. Taking a new wife, Sibylla, daughter of his enemy, Patrick of Salisbury, he soon meets his match. Sibylla possesses a strength and courage that equals his own. But John and Sibylla are about to be tested to the limit. As the fight for England's crown enters a new phase, John is forced to make a terrible sacrifice. Sometimes, keeping your honor means breaking your word. So, again, I love Elizabeth Chadwick's writing. I did a great content debate on her, so I will link that in the description box down below. This is over 500 pages. This one was published in 2007. I love her writing. Okay. We are at the end. These are all by the same author. One is a complete series, and I believe this is standalone. But don't quote me on that. This is When Christ and His Angels Slept by Sharon K. Penman. I may be wrong. There may be a follow-up to this. My brain is conflicted. AD 1135, as church bell tolls for the death of England's King Henry I, his barons faced the unwelcome prospect of being ruled by a woman, Henry's beautiful daughter Maud, Countess of Anjou. But before Maud could claim her throne, her cousin Stephen seized it. In their long and bitter struggle, all of England bled and burned. Sharon K. Penman's magnificent fifth novel summons to life a spectacular medieval tragedy whose unfolding breaks the heart even as it prepares the way for splendors to come. The glorious age of Eleanor of Aquitaine and the Plantagenets that would soon illuminate the world. And this one is 746 pages. And this was published in when was this published? Why do they make it so difficult sometimes? I don't think it's incredibly old. Does not have a publication date in here. That is very odd. Or if it does, I'm definitely missing it. Here we go. 1995. So, you know how long now I've been wanting to read it? Okay. And that brings us to a completed series by Sharon K. Penman. Or at least, as of me sitting down. And this is the... I don't know the name of the series. I'll put it right here. So, here are all 4 books. They actually all match. So, the first book is The Sun in Splendor. And in this beautifully rendered modern classic, Sharon K. Penman redeems Richard III, vilified as a bitter, twisted, scheming hunchback who murdered his nephews, the princes in the Tower, from his maligned place in history with a dazzling combination of research and storytelling. Born into the treacherous courts of 15th century England, in the midst of what history has called the War of the Roses, Richard was raised in the shadow of his charismatic brother, King Edward IV. Loyal to his friends and passionately in love with the one woman who was denied him, Richard emerges as a gifted man, far more sinned against than sinning. I'm in love with this book and I haven't even read it. This was published in 1982. And in this format, it is over 900 pages. I have no problem with that. Next up in the series is Falls the Shadow. And this is the story of Are we working backward? Simon de Montfort was a man ahead of his time in the 13th century as a disinherited Frenchman who talked his way into an English earldom and marriage with the sister of the English king, Henry III. A charismatic, obstinate leader, Simon soon lost patience with the king's incompetence and inability to keep his word, and found himself the champion of the common people. This is his story, and the story of Henry III is a weak and This is his story, and the story of Henry III, as weak and changeable as Simon was brash and unbending. It is the tale of opposing wills that would eventually clash in the storm of violence and betrayal. An irresistible saga that brings the pages to history completely, provocatively, and magnificently alive. I take it back. These are all standalones, but they're all related somehow, and I don't know how. Okay, up next would be The Reckoning. And I know these are all in publication order. I took great pains. This one was published in 1991, and this is only 592 pages? No. Yeah, 582 pages. So, his father's words haunt Llewellyn de Godfrey. I butcher Welsh always. Prince of Wales, who has been ruling uneasily over his fractious countrymen. Above all else, Llewellyn fears that his life and his own dream of an independent, united Wales might be lost to Edward I's desire to expand his English empire. Alive from the pages of history, this is the hauntingly beautiful and compelling tale of a game poised to play itself out to its bloody finale as English and Welsh cross swords in a reckoning that must mean disaster for one side or the other. Okay, the most recently published book. This one was published in 1985. I take it back. And this one is 700 pages. That is Here Be Dragons. And I love this cover. Like, seriously, look at that. 13th century Wales is a divided country. However, ever at the mercy of England's ruthless, power-hungry King John. Llewellyn, Prince of North Wales, secures an uneasy truce by marrying the English king's beloved illegitimate daughter, Joanna, who slowly grows to love her charismatic and courageous husband. But as John's attentions turn again and again to subduing Wales and Llewellyn, Joanna must decide where her love and loyalties truly lie. The turbulent clash of two disparate worlds and the destinies of two individuals caught between them spring to life in this magnificent novel of power, passion, loyalty, and lies. Okay, so they may not be a series, but they are all related. They are all, I need to put them in proper chronological timeline so that the story flows from my head. However, it doesn't change the fact that I am very interested in all of them. So, okay, that is my historical, to the best of my knowledge, my historical fiction physical haul from the third quarter, early into the fourth quarter, and my birthday. And unsurprising, if it's a completed series or a standalone, it's very high in my list right now. So, are any of these interesting to you? Have you read any of them? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.